guys, and welcome to Bod Talk with Mazer Fit. I hope you guys have been keeping up with our podcast so far. This is our third episode, and we're very excited about our special guest tonight. As always, remember, please follow us and follow all of our guests. We will make sure to leave their Instagram handles and information in the description on YouTube and on all of the audio podcast descriptions. So please, also, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us or our guests if you have any questions specifically for them.
Well, Donna and I go way back. I'd say she's probably the first person that I got to meet when I moved up to Dallas and started my training career. Donna and I started in 1999, way back in December at the gym, the Q Sports Club. Dynamic personality, always like super feisty. She was probably the busiest person I've ever seen in the shortest amount of time. I mean, at 50 sessions and 50 hours a week within, I don't know, a month or two. So I've had the pleasure of being able to know her and her husband Patrick for years and be good friends with them. And she is a dynamic personality in the Pilates community. And I wanted to just reach out and get a better understanding of what is Pilates. Like, tell us a little bit more about that. And so I thought, well, let's reach out to my good friend Donna. Donna, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your history, your background, what got you here, where you were before I met you, and then, close the gap of where you are now.
Awesome. That's going to be a long time. That's like a 21-year span.
I know.
Okay, so I was at the University of Florida. I raced for the university as a triathlete, so I did exercise physiology, and I was a foster parent in college, so I was busy, like you said. I did teaching aerobics on the side. I taught everything, mostly kickboxing and martial arts and some things like that, and I really was missing part of the puzzle because everything I did was a lot of power. And so there was that link to my exercise program that was missing. And so when I applied to work at Cooper and they really didn't have a spot for me, I probably called them 25 times a day to work at the institute until they said, okay, we'll just create something for you. And so off I came to work at the institute, the Cooper Institute, and I just thought, I've arrived. It was amazing. It was so great. I was going to get my master's, and so I studied child obesity, and I was working on in epidemiology, and that was not the direction I felt led to pursue. So
Right.
Working at the Q Club, and I was a director of Gold's Gym and did some fitness jobs like that. So.
Right. And I've also known you at the Cooper Aerobics Center, which we go by the name of Cooper Fitness Center. Some people know it as the Aerobics Center, but you've been there as long as I've been there. And as of right now, I guess you stepped away 10 years ago, but you still are there part-time. You're always an integral part of Cooper. So now that you're with FBH, what does that look like? What is this studio that you're working out of, that you're doing all of this amazing training with?
Okay, so I worked at Cooper since 1999. I taught group X for them, and I still do. Cooper's like my family. It's basically the backbone of exercise physiology. Everything I believe in Dr. Cooper's mission. And then I transferred into Pilates director. And so when I became a mom, started a family, I needed a little bit more time. And my Pilates career was starting to take off into a direction that was, pretty hyper focused on just Pilates. And so I really needed something that was going to do the more hours as a mom, but also give me the intensity of just the Pilates that I needed. And so I went on my own. And so I had already been using the name For Better Health for probably 15 years because I provided continuing education already at Cooper when I was a director and brought in people from all over the world to the Cooper Fitness Center because I built their program up when they they didn't have a program. All their equipment was stacked up on the floor. And so they just said, what is this? Do you want to do something with it? And I was like, I would be honored. And that was
wow.
That was probably one of the, best things I've done in my career. And so that was a good time for me.
So what led you to the path of Pilates when you were, you were in college and you did all these power sports and you got into this? And you said that, from what we've talked about outside of this interview, you said that you learned how to control the power that you had. So that what really interested you mostly in this?
Yes. Yes. The control it's amazing. It's like, because I'm kind of a hyper fast person. It's the yoga, which is fantastic as well. I think anything that you find that you're going to connect with is good for you. Right. And so that's why we have a gajillion different kind of exercise programs. And so when it connects to your body, then your body understands it, and then you're going to be actually motivated to do it. So when I started studying Joseph Pilates and the reasons why and what he did and how he moved and how his body moved and what he did, I was like, I felt so connected to his work, kind of like when I read about Dr. Cooper and I wanted to come to Dallas. I felt like that's what I was doing. He was a boxer and he was a gymnast, and it wasn't like he just did Pilates. He did everything. And then this system made his body connect the parts. And so then you're able to go out there and do all this stuff. So I still run and, I spar and I do Spartans, and Pilates is the glue, that sticks my body together so that I'm able to continue on. I mean, on Thursday, I'm going to celebrate, my 49th birthday, and I am so blessed that I can, jump an 8-foot wall and do box jumps. I mean, I'm thankful Pilates gave me that. So that's good.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, Donna, because I didn't really have an experience with Pilates when I got into fitness at all. And I didn't really delve into it until I was pregnant. And I really felt like that was something I needed to integrate into my exercise program, because I couldn't do a lot of the stuff that I wanted to do. Because like you, I'm more like a sprinter and I love box jumps and plyo stuff. And so I loved Pilates, but I also developed a strong hatred toward Pilates, because the one thing that it made me realize was how weak I was.
Right. That's what it does.
It made me realize that I did not have as much control over my body as I thought that I did.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I was like, wait a minute, I can't move my leg in a circle. This is crazy. I mean, I just ran a marathon. What do you mean I can't move my leg in a circle? And so I was totally inspired. I mean, I actually quit teaching about 5 other formats. So for the time frame that I was in training, I could really focus on what I needed to learn so that I wouldn't be missing anything, so that I could just, be the best teacher I could be. And from there, I just try to keep learning. And I'm by far not anything I need to be. There's so many people that I learn from. I just did a Zoom session last week with a trainer that still teaches me. And there's a hierarchy, like in anything, of level 1 teachers and people that knew Joe and worked with him. And I'm still like a 3rd generation. So I still have a long ways to go. But
I know you're up there.
Yeah, well, as everyone gets older, I'll start to progress. But either way, I'm glad I have a place that I can keep learning. And it's like, people are like, your dream's coming true? I'm like, well, I never really dreamt this because it just didn't seem possible. So, I mean, sometimes when I'm in here like this, I'm like, what? I get to just come here anytime? This is amazing.
It is an amazing place. I mean, I love the way, like the flow, the energy, it's the lighting, everything's so cool in there. It's calming, but at the same time, it's got like a good work energy in there. I'd like to touch on, you touched on a couple of different things that I want to approach, but first, let's get back to the history of Joseph Pilates. Where did this start? Like, from what I understand, he was in an internment camp during World War I, 1918. He was a German citizen that was living in England and then was put in this camp. And take us from there.
Good job. You did your research. So I'm not a historian, and there's a lot of good people I could lead you to that would give you a lot better details. So I'll just give you like the overall general population. So just imagine that you and me, and we're all into this fitness stuff and being of a young age. So imagine your daughter and my kids, and they're kind of sickly, a little bit like my Sky. So. And he still wanted to move and do things, but he had rickets and he had asthma. And during that time, it wasn't like, take a couple puffs on this thing and then keep running. It was like, don't run, and so he created some movements that he could move under those restraints. And so those became part of the movements that we do. And what's fascinating is I have been teaching in a closet for 7 weeks. And every time I go up to this dark, dungy closet to put my phone in there, and teach these people, and I start doing these mat exercises, they have come alive for me because I'm thinking to myself, I get to leave this closet. I get to go out in the sun and get water, and I'm not in prison. And he was in prison, and the only reason that all of these people in his camp did not get sick or get the influenza and they survived was because they had a regime, and he taught them to move their bodies and to do the sequence of exercises and be diligent. And that is what produced in them a will to live and a strong mind. And so it's just like going, this time that we're living in right now has just changed the work for me so much, because it's like, if I just keep to the work and do the structure, it just gives me something to keep moving toward, even though we're stuck, and it's against our will, kind of a little bit like his. So he was sick, and he developed muscles the way he could. There's all kinds of really funny pictures and videos of him. And so just think back to like Jack LaLanne or like all these old, people that we think of, and like whatever apparatus that they would have available. I mean, we use a lot of springs, in here in Pilates, because there's, metal and wood and things are what they had then. They didn't have like slam balls and things like that. In the back of his garage, he would have like, springs, and he'd be punching and working on his form. And you see him just doing all kinds of amazing, adaptive, incredible, creative exercises, So, I mean, in the intern camp, he just did the mat exercises. And so there's a whole system of mat exercises that are done in a repetition. And that's where, the mat Pilates came from. But from the mat, then we have all of this genius, creation that he made that we use. And these pieces of equipment are we have neck correctors, foot correctors, spine correctors, toe correctors. All of those are, for correcting issues you may have. Mm-hmm. So we use those,
Yeah.
Wow. And so you approach from the multi-jointed level. I mean, you're going all the way down to the toe correctors. I didn't.
Oh, yeah. Then they got like a nasty bunion or something, and then I'm trying to get them to do footwork. Well, that's going to kind of impair their footwork, or a jump or a run or a walk. All that stuff's going to kind of affect, like muscle activation. If they're not really working their foot, it's going to be hard to wear heels and do other things. So, yeah, it's a whole body approach for sure. For sure.
So, Donna, for people that the general public that may not understand a lot about Pilates or just know, details about it, can you give a explanation of the difference between reformer, bar, and mat Pilates, and what that kind of looks like, and how they're so different?
Sure. Okay, so in any fitness regime, you're going to have, think about a Louis Vuitton purse. Okay, you're going to have a purse that someone has crafted and made into this beautiful purse that costs, $2,000. And then you walk down New York and you can buy a Louis Vuitton knockoff for $5, right? So it's the same thing in any fitness industry. The same thing with Pilates. I mean, you can buy a stable reformer that was designed the way, as close as we can, the way that Joe wanted it. And it's relatively expensive, where you can buy a knockoff, fake Louis Vuitton and just, kind of go through the system. I mean, it takes work to find the, the true method of what Joe wanted us to learn, and it's worth looking for that. But I mean, if you're going to a mat class and you find a mat Pilates class, you're going to have a series of exercises that are done on a mat. Most of the time, it's 80% spinal flexion. So 80% of the time, you're going to be on your back and you're going to be curling up in spinal flexion. So if we think about that, like, is our population ready for laying on the mat, using their own body weight and doing 80% spinal flexion? Probably not. Okay. And you know what I'm saying? So they're probably going to need some assistance. And so what the equipment does is gives them the assistance they need to perform the exercises properly. So if you can't do advanced exercises and rolling over your head and moving your body in all these different sequences, the mat class is going to be kind of tough. So if you want to learn the mat, then you could do training with someone, or you could find, there's some really good websites they have some really good beginner exercises. But remember, a beginner mat exercise program is going to take you, it's going to take you a while. So we can't take a beginner mat class and then all of a sudden go to a studio where they have a class with 25 people in it and expect, that maybe your neck or back is not going to hurt. I get this all the time. Mm-hmm. Pilates hurts my neck or back. And I was like, well, something is wrong with the class you're in, because that should not be happening. I mean, you're using all of the wrong things to create something that you're trying to fix, So the reformers, and so basically Pilates is a system. Mm-hmm. So what happens is people break that system up and they try to give it to you in different pieces. Okay. So let's do a class, or let's do a reformer class. Well, why? You come in today and it's like, tell me what you did. Tell me this, what I say to my clients. So tell me what you did yesterday. And tell me what you did this morning and what you're going to do later today. And then that tells me what I'm going to do with their body. Right? So instead of me going like, let's just do some, mat class, or I'll say, have you done any mat classes this week? And they'll say, yeah, I did 3. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. So you've done 3. That's a lot of flexion. Okay. So we're going to do a lot of, and so I create for them in here with all this equipment what I want for their body and their exercise. So that's the difference between having a private Pilates person versus a class.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Then my clients who I've had for 15 years, they come in, I'll say, hey, look, I'm going to start a class for you guys because you can't keep coming in and training with me. So I have all of my regulars in a class. I know where they are. I know where they're going, and I know how they move, and I put them together in a reformer class. And I'll say every Friday we're going to do reformer because I need you to know this move, and I need to know what you're doing on other days, and I can do that like that.
Okay. So I guess I never understood it, that the equipment was actually an assistance method versus a resistance. It is resistance, both, but it was developed first as an assistive measure because the mat Pilates is actually the more challenging version.
Right.
Okay. See, so, I thought it was the foundational version, and that then you could move to the equipment. So I didn't realize that was the route that you went down. I've done both, but I think it was just I've had different instructors who are like, hey, we're going to do reformer stuff, and we're going to do some of the, we're going to do step or the barrel or whatever, and they just throw it all together. And then the one class that killed me the most was doing mat Pilates. I was like, oh my gosh, how many 100 beats? What is this?
Yeah,
like,
just imagine holding your legs up in the air by themselves. Something has to hold those legs up.
Right.
So on the Cadillac, the springs are holding your legs up, so you don't have to hold your legs up. So the springs are actually assisting you. Of course, we're going to create tension, and then I'm going to work the opposing muscle group. So if your legs are being held up with the springs, you don't have to work the front of your body. Then the springs can give you resistance on the back side of your. Sorry about that. They can give you. I was like, whoa, the springs can give you assistance on the back side of your muscles. So that's pretty cool.
That is super cool. Yeah. So I've heard of different methods of Pilates, and can you tell me, so what method is it that you teach, and what are the different types of methods? Because you had talked about some people break them apart, and going back to the original form.
Right.
What does that look like to us?
So it's a little bit challenging. So
It's a touchy subject. It's kind of political, right?
Yeah, it's a little challenging. You know, I really just want people to move their bodies. And so most of the time when somebody will say to me, oh, I do Pilates at wherever, and I'll say, great. And then somebody will say, well, why didn't you say something to them? I'm like, why? They're moving their bodies and it's fine. If somebody wants to know and they want to inquire and they're willing to learn more, then they'll ask. And so then we can give them information where to find that. Everybody can find stuff. We have Google, right?
Right.
So there's a lot of different training systems out there. And there's people that think that they're the best, just like in training world, there's
of course, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm certified under the Donna Pilates system, and it's an honor to be in that system, and I take that very seriously. So basically, that was like me getting my PhD in Pilates for me. So yeah. I had gotten certified in a couple other ones, and I trained, and there was still a connection that I was missing in Joe's work somewhere. And I was training with a couple other people, and they said, this is what you really need to do. So typically people would have already done that system. And I just kind of did a roundabout way. And so
that was like hundreds of hours, if not thousands, right? How many hours was that?
Oh, that was, it took me a while because I was older and I had, 2 kids, and it was, when I finally finished, it was about $7,000, and I think it took me about 2 years.
Wow, that's some dedication, serious dedication.
Yeah. So.
Well, I guess, Donna, my question is, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, was, I know that sometimes people come to us fitness professionals because they're in pain. Yes. So would you say that Pilates could be used as a therapy? Or, like, for example, if I went and jumped off of a cliff skiing and tore my ACL, could I come to a Pilates specialist and use that as a way of therapy to rebuild myself? Or would I use that more as like a segue back into my exercise routine?
Okay. Well, in 2017, I jumped off the American Ninja Warrior course, and I blew out my ACL, MCL, and tore my meniscus. So I rehabbed my knee with a complete total reconstruction. And I did 8 physical therapy sessions, and then I did the rest in here.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
It was awesome because I got to experience Pilates in a different way. So I could barely walk, and I had to start over. So it was actually, it's horrible. But I just now, when I do that with people, I can understand the real pain and challenge of moving through that. So, you always, go to a doctor and you do all that stuff, the doctor and then the therapist. And I work with the physical therapist, and we have 2 physical therapists that work here. And when they're ready and they give me the go, then we go. I say, tell me what they can't do. Tell me what they can do. Tell me what you want them to be able to do. That's my thing. What do you want to be able to do? What can you not do? How are you 35 years old and you cannot do this thing? Like, why? Why are you have so many restrictions? Mm-hmm. Like, our body is meant to move in multiplanar, right? We talk about this all the time. It is such a beautiful thing to be able to cross all these spheres of movement, and we are so restricted in our movement pattern. And so that is what I look at a lot. Like, why can't you move?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
do you think that there are any risks for the general population for Pilates at all? Or are there things that you would recommend people, avoid doing before or after?
I think people have a misconception a little bit about Pilates. So a lot of times people will say, oh, I can't do Pilates because, I have MS, or I can't do Pilates because I have balance issues. I can't, And then I'll just say, well, tell me, do you know anybody who does Pilates, or have you ever tried Pilates? Yeah, I tried it one time I did this thing. And so I think what happens is people have a misconception. Like, I know I've had misconceptions about other things in my life. And then when I get educated about that, I'll be like, oh my God, that wasn't anything what I thought it was. So I think trying it out is always going to be a way for us to give a good assessment, right? I mean, every type of exercise is going to have something beneficial for you. And it may not be beneficial enough for you to invest a lot of time and money in. And yes, that has happened on an occasion where I would say, like, maybe we should wait. But very rarely do I have someone that I don't believe with all my heart that I can't make their life a little better by teaching them what I know and love. Mm-hmm. I just don't. And it's so easy for me because I know it's going to work because I see it all the time that it's, if they show up and they do the work, it's gonna do something, Yeah. If you don't, and you're not taking care of yourself, well, I don't really have many clients like that.
Yeah.
So, but there's a lot of stuff out there, and I had to tell someone the other day, they're like, I'm going to start doing Pilates, with you, and this is what I'm really looking for. I want this, 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 and this. And I said, I don't really think I'm the studio for you. That's just not something that we do at FBH. We're a little boutique style studio that really takes care of people one-on-one, a little bit more of a concierge. And I don't have a trainer that will work like that. She wanted something that was more than her body can do. She wanted an advanced level class, but she's in a beginner intermediate body. And I said, that's not really what we do, but I can send you somewhere and you can get some good classes if that's what you want. And that was totally fine with her and me. And she went, and that was great. But people come to us in a lot of pain. We have a lot of clients in a lot of pain. Total shoulders, total hips. I mean, we have a lot of clients, in their 50s, and, they're like, oh my gosh, how did I, get like this in 50s? I'm like, well, tell me about your life. And then I'll be like, you did what?
Exactly.
So I'll always try to downplay it. Like, oh, that's not a big deal.
It was 20, 30 years ago. No big deal.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, you can work with anything.
The power of Pilates, that goes back from a historical perspective. You see that Joseph Pilates was a teacher. His passion was to teach others. And there were people that were in this camp with him, this prison, that needed his guidance, that was also psychologically he was helping them out. Movement was healing them. I think he coined the term movement heals. Or am I thinking of another philosopher? It could be Hippocrates or something. But
a lot of people have used that one.
But the power of Pilates, from what your anecdotal, like with you saying that in 2017 you had a total knee repair, but then you had you're back on a Spartan course racing 2 years later or a year and a half later, and you've done a couple of those. What other powerful Pilates, I guess, outcomes have you had there at FBH, and what are some of the ones that just really hit you at the top of your brain? You go, wow, that was something special.
You mean like clients?
Yes.
So this is an elderly gentleman. I think he may be, we're not supposed to have favorites, but he's lived through a bone marrow transplant, and this is his third time with cancer. And so he, when he called and said, I have to start Pilates, I was like, okay, because, you can kind of hear the voice in the phone. And my doctor said, I have to come see you, and I'm going to start twice a week. And I was like, okay. And, I was about to say my usual line that I'm not taking any new clients. And then I'll be glad to do an assessment, and I'll put you with someone that'd be great for you. But something about him, I just was like, okay, I can't wait to meet you. And so every time he comes in, he wears slacks and a full button-down shirt and a sweater, and he works out. And so we've been together for almost 2 years. And so one of the doctors from Cooper sent to me, and he's recovering now from cancer for the third time. He's finishing his last radiation treatment on this Tuesday. and he has not missed a single session, even with this pandemic. And he's in his 70s. And he said, I would never miss my exercise because then I would surely die.
Wow. Yes.
And I was just like, Claude, I was like, I have people that are scared to do everything, and you're going back and forth to the hospital, and he says, I just have to keep moving. He's like, every time, I just feel the springs, and I can feel my joints, and I just know. And I was just like, what a testimony. Like, I was thinking to myself, like, Joe would really love that, because when he was in New York, he would have these classes where men would come in their suits, and they would just loosen up their ties, and they would stretch on the spine correctors and kind of move their body a little bit just for like a lunchtime little spine break. And then, tie it back up tight and then go on. That's what the stories say. And so it wasn't a comprehensive program, but it was enough movement in the middle of their day, that they were being consistent with their program. And so every time he comes in, and people are like, you wearing that to work out? Yeah, wearing that to work out. He did a full workout. So I don't know. He's a pretty cool cat, and I think his story is awesome. We always have those athletes that can do everything, but they're not surprising because they're designed to do that, Mm-hmm. They're born to be awesome. But,
born to be awesome.
I think that, so my grandfather, he just passed, but he had Parkinson's for 20 plus years. And he never went to Pilates specifically, but a lot of the movements that he was doing with his nurse that would come visit him was very close to a lot of the Pilates movements.
Yeah, that's really good for Parkinson's.
And I firmly believe 100% that just by doing that kept him alive for 3 or 4 more years.
Oh my gosh.
And he loved it, didn't he? He loved it. Oh, he got so excited when they would come over.
Oh, just get ready. Yeah. Well, I think that Donna, with you, you have such a passion for serving others, and that passion, just like with Pilates and the person you were talking about, the nurse that came over to see your grandpapa. He was such, there's this passion, it's contagious, especially with you. I'm
an Enneagram too. I can't help it.
I'm not as familiar with that, but you can tell me a little bit about what an Enneagram 2 is.
You need to take the test, my friend.
I guess I should. Have you taken the test?
No.
No, I shouldn't.
Oh!
The Enneagrams, yeah, that should be interesting. But I think that...
your marriage a little bit.
Sweet. Okay, well, we'll get on that. That passion, and that is what keeps people going too. It's knowing that you're there for them, that you have their best interest. You ask them about their week, and it's not just, hey, what have you done this week? Okay, we're going to do what I want to do. We're going to do what I think you need to do based on all the things you've already done, and you're tailoring it at that specific session at that moment. And that's what you, being a professional, and having that assistance and being able to see you offer. How can you help our viewers and listeners, if they want to get started with a Pilates program? What are some basic exercises or resources or something that you could guide them to, if they can't, get in to see you at FBH?
Right. Okay, so if you're going to do it online, there's a website, Pilatesology, and you guys can just put that on your post. It has the best videos. She's awesome. And she has all different kinds of levels and the highest level teachers. And if I was a beginner person, you could learn a lot from that. Pilatesology is the best. There's a couple different other ones that give a bunch of different basic level classes. But I find that if you kind of go around too much, then instead of staying on track with one thing that you could be learning, then you start getting yourself too varied, and then people don't make any progress. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'll tell people, well, do these 3 videos, or do these 3 moves, and then when I see you, show me the moves. And then they'll be like, I couldn't do those moves or whatever. I'm like, just do these 3 moves, because these 3 moves are going to build onto these moves. So you need somebody or a video or something to give you a repetition of moves that will be building blocks to get you into, a stronger, better position to get ready for those exercises. And I think some of those Pilatesology, some of those websites are really good for that.
Great.
If you're looking around for studios, just ask them questions like, what's your certification and what type of equipment do you have? And do you have all the equipment? Some studios literally only have just reformers. And if they don't have, Cadillacs and spine correctors and barrels and things like that, then they may be missing a part of the element of the system that you may want to just inquire about another studio. Simple things like that. You can always call me, email me, text me, and ask me questions that people do ask me sometimes. They'll send me a picture of a video or something. They'll say, should I watch this? Is it a good person? And if I don't know, I'll say I don't know, because there's a lot of great people that I don't know. I'm going to Utah. Do you know if there's any good studios there? And I will totally research all the studios there and send them to somebody there that I think would be good for them. So anybody here at FBH will be glad to help them do that. And Dallas is full of amazing teachers. When I first moved here, I did a Pilates DVD with 2 other teachers, and I remember I didn't know anyone, and I showed up, and my eyes were popping out because I was like, how am I going to be in a video with these girls? It was like a ballerina and then Sarah and me. So it was like Veronica, Sarah, me. And I was literally like going, I think I'm in the wrong place. They were so amazing. And I was just like, I remember crying and thinking, I'm never going to survive in this town as a Pilates instructor. Because I just come from such a different background. I'm an athlete. But Joe was an athlete. He was a boxer. He wasn't a dancer. And so I just stayed true to myself and just find a teacher that is passionate about what she teaches, and you'll be good to go.
Cool. Thank you.
So, Donna, you said that it's a building block system. And really fitness in general is like that overall.
Yeah.
But what, in your opinion, does an advanced program for Pilates look like?
Ooh, I love that. So because I've had a lot of clients for a long time, I do get the honor of teaching people some pretty advanced stuff, which is fun because not a lot of teachers get to do that. Because if you have, new people a lot, or you change clients a lot, or older clientele, it's kind of hard. But so let's just say in general, if somebody was an advanced client, so earlier I trained somebody and I would say, let's do full reformer. And so that is not me really teaching her. That's like me becoming an orchestra, or whatever the name, clearly music isn't my thing. I'm actually guiding her through the exercises, and I'm just telling her what to do. And she's just flowing through the movements. And so in order to do these, 30, 40, 50 movements in 40 minutes, there is no, her mind is clear and she's working, and I'm just flowing and her body's moving and she's moving the springs and changing the foot bar and putting her headrest down. And it's amazing. And then we have enough time after that to run through a little intermediate mat. And this is all within an hour. And then I noticed a couple things during the reformer and the mat. I'm like, I noticed something weird's up with your shoulder or your neck or your foot. So today for our ending, our closing, I'm going to pick blah, 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 blah. So I might pick the pedal pull or the Cadillac or pull-ups, or like, wow, your arms have gotten so weak during this pandemic. You haven't done anything. Let's get on the Cadillac and do some pull-ups. Or, wow, your foot looks terrible. What happened? Like literally, I haven't done any of my foot exercises since the studio's been closed. And my left foot bunion is coming back out. I just got the thing to go back in the other way.
Oh, wow.
In here to get my toe corrector because I'm taking it home with me tonight because it's driving me crazy. So if I noticed that, then I would say, let's do these exercises. And I even gave her a tool to take home. And I said, you need to practice these before I see you next week, because I'm not seeing you 3 times a week anymore. I'm seeing you once. And you are responsible for your own workouts because you're advanced, right? So do these things. But that kind of client, is like self-motivated and doing all kinds of Zoom classes all over the world. I mean, now you can take someone's class across the world for $30, something I would have to, pay thousands to travel and do. It's amazing. So advanced people are self-motivated. I'm just guiding them. They don't really need me.
Yes.
Beginners need you.
Right.
Intermediate need you. Advanced don't really need you. They want you.
You give them that extra little bit that they can't get themselves. They know that you're gonna not let them, give up a little bit earlier, or give me 5 more seconds in that position. So I totally understand that point of view, because as much fun as it is to work with those people that are really basic in the beginning, that's fun because then you're laying the foundation and the groundwork. But the highly advanced people, those people are exciting because they keep you on your own professional toes, because you're having to come up with better ways to serve them when they're already doing a fantastic job on their own.
Yes. They all definitely have their value. I mean, a whole clientele of advanced would make you a little cuckoo. So, because they definitely are in a class of all of their own. Their demands are higher for sure. That's for sure.
Exactly.
So at FBH, tell me a little bit about y'all's setup there. I'd love to be able to show some of our viewers what the inside looks like a little bit more than this. So maybe we can see some of those. And you told me that I know that you guys have physical therapists, you have chiropractor, you have MAT, and you have all kinds of different services available there.
You want a tour?
Yeah, I would love a tour.
Okay, let's see. So tell me how this works when I pick the camera up.
Okay.
So let me switch. I switched this around. I can do this, right? Okay. There we go. Okay, so this looks a little different than it normally would look because we have everything 6 feet apart because we're trying to get ready for grand opening. But so basically this is our Tower of Power wall. And so what that means is these 5 black mats, they all fall down. And not fall, but we place them on the ground. And then we would have a class of 5. So we limit the class to 5 so that everybody gets as much instruction as possible. And these are for clients that, been in here before, and we can help them with the springs. So here's one of the mats. And then this is all the springs. My favorite part is all of these springs that we use of different tensions, the leg springs. And so you could do a Pilates class, but we also have TRX on this wall, on the Tower of Power wall. So you can do a TRX class, and we have 5 of those. So the towers fold up and the TRX come out. And then up here in the ceiling, we have all of these little metal hooks and stars. See that little star? Mm-hmm. And then what drops down from there is our hammocks, the Harris hammocks. So we have the best hammocks here. And we do our hammock classes. And then over here is our little chair section. So Joe had a bunch of different chairs. This chair is actually pretty fabulous because this is what he made to have in New York for people to do exercise at home, which is another thing I loved about Joe. Because it wasn't all about just coming to the studio. It's about being responsible for your own workout. So this flips upside down and you could sit in it as a chair. Cool. And then we have, electric chair and super fun stuff. And then we actually have 3 full Cadillacs. And so these are the big monsters. Yeah. And these are awesome. Yeah. So typically we'd have 5 reformers in a row, and we'd have 5, like a reformer class. And we're not going to do any of that for a while until we start feeling a little better about our nation's health. And then we have our little spine correctors over here. We have little classes. Everybody should have one of these in their house, but we'll leave that for another podcast.
Yeah, I need one of those.
Those are really amazing. And then we have our big barrels here. These are really fun. So like I have a couple male clients that have these in their offices because I want them to stretch throughout the day. And I just give them a little protocol of stretching. And then here's the famous foot correctors that Joe invented, and super fun, like stuff like that. And here's this hand correctors. This is a breathalyzer thing to help your lung capacity and all that stuff. Okay, so that's the main studio. And then we have our physical therapist and our facialist are in this little office right here. It's cleaned out today because we're getting ready. Ta-da! And so we have Dale Smith is here, and his wife Sarah Smith. They're Dallas's top physical therapist.
Yeah,
and then
around for a while. I've known them
long time,
20 years or so.
Yeah, they are super amazing. So here's all our staff. This is all the Pilates teachers, yoga teachers. We have a chiropractor, and we have estheticians, and there's Christian. We have MAT specialist, and all kinds of that. So then we have our little extra room right here. We have Mr. Bones and our MAT room. So it's home away from home.
Yes.
Great. It's a great studio.
It is an amazing studio. And it does look a lot different. Everything is spaced out compared
I know. Oh, I know. And then Patrick added all his weight.
All right. Hey. You got it all there.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do. Awesome.
Well, Donna, this was really informative. I think that people are going to get a lot out of this. I know I did. I definitely did not know that Pilates was as extensive as it was. And I'm excited to get back into it now. I'm like pumped up and ready to go.
Yeah.
I love hearing that. And I think anybody should just start. Really, just starting is the most important part. Don't be fearful about if you're going to do it right or you're going to have the right teacher. Just start somewhere. And anybody can ask me any questions they want anytime.
Well, that is that passion. That's going to be your name is passion. You're definitely passionate about everything that I've ever seen you be.
The best nickname I've ever had in my life.
What's that?
I said that might be one of the best nicknames I've ever had in my life. Of all people have called me.
That's passion. Seriously, I don't think I've known anybody that's more passionate about anything and everything that whatever you set your mind on, you're passionate about.
Uh-huh.
And that's what I love about you.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Of course. And to any of our viewers, if you guys are in the Dallas area, please send a message to Donna if you want to set up a session. She'd love to hear from you. Her studio is amazing. She's amazing. And you would really get a lot out of working with her. So I encourage you to do that. And please follow her. We'll pop her Instagram handle on the screen again. And we will see you guys on the next episode of Bod Talk with Mazerfit. Thanks, Donna.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Have a good night.
You too.